Snow drifted down in slow, shimmering flakes like the sky was quietly crying, and in the middle of the glowing park, surrounded by Christmas lights and distant laughter, a man in a perfectly tailored suit sat on a weathered bench looking like the loneliest soul in the world. His name was Adrian Cole, a young CEO known for his sharp mind and cold efficiency, yet tonight nothing about him felt powerful. His shoulders were tense, his eyes red, his breath unsteady. The world saw him as unstoppable, but on this silent Christmas Eve, he looked breakable, forgotten, painfully human. While the rest of the city sparkled with hope, Adrian felt like his world had dimmed beyond repair, and he wondered if anyone would even notice if he disappeared into the snow. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of good people, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And before we go deeper, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Adrian had spent the day trying to outrun memories that refused to loosen their grip. A year ago, on this same night, he had lost the most important person in his life, his mother, the only one who ever reminded him that love mattered more than success. He had promised her he would slow down, take care of himself, and learn to let people in. Instead, he buried himself in work, hardened his heart, and pushed away anyone who came close. Now, despite all his achievements, despite the awards, the praise, the wealth, he felt hollow. His company was thriving, but he was crumbling. And as he sat in the snowy park staring at the massive Christmas tree glowing gold and red, he whispered to the cold air that he didn't know how to keep going like this. The sound of tiny boots crunching the snow pulled him out of his thoughts, and he looked up to see a small girl toddling toward him with a gift box wrapped in shiny green paper. She wore a red velvet dress, white stockings, and a green knitted hat that bounced when she walked. Her round cheeks were pink from the cold, and her eyes sparkled with a kindness so pure it almost hurt to look at. Behind her, a woman, likely her mother, walked through the snow carrying shopping bags and wearing a warm smile. The little girl stopped in front of him and tilted her head curiously, as if trying to understand why a grown-up would sit alone on a magical night like this. Before he could force a polite smile, the little girl lifted her tiny mittened hand and reached toward his face, brushing at a tear he hadn't realized had fallen. She looked at him with childlike sincerity, that kind of honesty adults forget how to show. And in a soft, soothing voice, she said words that pierced straight through the icy walls around his heart. "Don't cry, mister, you can borrow my mom." The park lights shimmered like they were holding their breath, and Adrian felt something collapse inside him, something heavy, something he'd been carrying for too long. He bowed his head, overwhelmed, and for a moment he couldn't speak at all. The little girl, whose mother called her Marina, gently placed the small green gift in his lap before her mother arrived beside them, a bit breathless and apologizing for her daughter's boldness. But she apologized with a smile, the kind of warm expression that told Adrian she was just as gentle-hearted as her daughter. Her name was Sophia Vale, and she introduced herself with a respectful nod while Marina proudly announced that the gift was not for her, but for him, because nobody should be alone at Christmas. Adrian tried to decline, but Marina insisted with the absolute authority only a 3-year-old could possess. When he finally opened the gift, he found a simple homemade ornament inside, a paper snowflake coated in glitter, tied carefully with a red ribbon. It was crooked, uneven, imperfect, and yet more meaningful than any corporate award he had ever received. Sophia explained softly that Marina had made several ornaments to give to people who looked like they needed Christmas the most. Adrian could not remember the last time someone gave him something without expecting anything in return. Sitting there, staring at the tiny lopsided snowflake, he felt an unexpected sting in his chest, not grief this time, but something almost like hope. Sophia noticed his trembling hands and sat beside him, explaining that she and Marina came to the park every Christmas Eve to admire the tree and give out a few small gifts. She said she learned the tradition from her late husband, who believed that Christmas was not about receiving, but about reaching those forgotten by the world. As they talked, Adrian found himself sharing things he had never spoken aloud. He told them about his mother, her warmth, the promises he broke, the loneliness that had swallowed him after losing her. Sophia listened with softness in her eyes, not pity, just understanding, the kind that made him feel human again. Marina, meanwhile, climbed onto the bench and leaned against him as if she had known him forever, humming a soft Christmas tune while swinging her small legs. Adrian couldn't remember the last time companionship felt so natural, so comforting, so undeservedly kind. The cold night didn't feel so harsh anymore. The lights seemed brighter. The weight on his chest began to lift. Sophia told him that healing wasn't about forgetting, it was about letting new light in. She reminded him that even the loneliest winters eventually melt into spring. Adrian realized he had spent a year trying to escape his pain instead of allowing himself to be touched by kindness, by life, by moments as simple and profound as this one. As the snow thickened and the park grew quieter, Marina suddenly jumped down and took Adrian's hand, tugging him toward the giant Christmas tree. She insisted he stand beneath it with her because good things happen under shiny trees. Adrian laughed, a real, full laugh he didn't know he was capable of anymore. Standing there with Marina's tiny hand gripping his and Sophia watching with a soft smile, Adrian felt something he hadn't felt in far too long, the possibility of belonging. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us spread more stories that remind people the world still has goodness left in it. As the evening neared its end, Sophia invited Adrian to walk with them for hot cocoa, and for the first time since losing his mother, he didn't feel alone. He felt guided, by a child's innocence, by a stranger's kindness, by the fragile but powerful truth that a single gesture can save someone from the edge. Adrian didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew he wouldn't face it with the same brokenness he carried before. Marina squeezed his hand again and whispered that her dad used to say lonely people are just friends waiting to meet. In that moment, Adrian believed it. Before you hear the final lines, please comment below, what was the most touching moment for you in this story? Walking out of the park with Marina swinging between their hands and the warmth of Sophia's presence beside him, Adrian realized that sometimes the smallest voices speak the loudest truths. And on that Christmas Eve, in a world that often forgets to look up from its own rush, a little girl showed a grieving man that even in the darkest season, kindness can be the light that leads you home.